Welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who just says a bunch of stuff that sounds nice because he's scared all the time. It's Johnny Numb.
Look, Mark, I want my friend back. Come on. We're supposed to be friends here.
Listen, man, I'm going to hit you with this sword. All right? And it's going to go right into that pink cast of yours. And it's going to be amazing.
Oh, yeah, it'll look pretty cool, but it's not going to feel good. Yeah.
All right, so before we get into Super Dark Times, a 2017 film that I adore, and you introduced me to it to continue our Feel Good series and also our Dark Month, which we're having at Movies, Films, and Flicks. Our Feel Good series, I love it. We actually fit a Feel Good movie into my Dark Month. It's perfect.
I love how you're doing a theme for April. That's awesome.
Well, it sort of fell together because I was looking at the movies I had, and I'm like, well, I should just do a month of this. It was not planned, but then I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's roll. Let's have it happen. Because I was looking at it. So I already had Darkman and I already had Prince of Darkness recorded. And then Zanandi and I had Dark and the Wicked planned, and you and I had Super Dark Times planned. So I was like, let's add We Summon the Darkness and Dark Shadows and a couple dark final fights, Thor the Dark World, and boom, Dark Month.
Oh, that's perfect. Love it.
It's great. Now, before we get into this, you have to do something.
Mm-hmm.
The other day, Billy Crash posted about his Carpenter films that he ranked. So he did he ranked the movies, did a sentence for each, really pithy.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess a lot of people complained about it, which blows my mind because, Johnny, if you had to rank Carpenter's, 18 films, there would be thousands upon thousands of different rankings you could have.
Oh, absolutely.
So for someone to complain that your ranking isn't the same as their ranking when there's a 1 in 500,000 chance, it's so stupid. I hate saying it's so stupid, but I'm just so tired of people complaining about lists. Here's my favorite films of the 1980s. And it's like, you forgot this one. No, well, I mean, there's thousands of them. There's literally like a million combinations I could do.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, in last place was Ghost of Mars. And you're like, well, I need to write a piece of Ghost of Mars for Crash Palace.
Yep.
And you were joking because it's last place, but I'm going to send you the movie and you are going to watch it and you're going to write a classic, wonderful, thoughtful Johnny Numb review for it. I need a Ghost of Mars review from Johnny Numb.
Hey, Mark, I wasn't being facetious at all. I saw that thing in the theater and I loved it. I saw it in the theater and I still love it. So thank you for the offer. But I actually, to play 6 Degrees of Podcasting here, Doug McCambridge from the Good Times, Great Movies podcast sent me a copy of Ghost of Mars on the Nice Indicator label. So I'm well Ghost of Mars, and I seriously plan on writing a 20-year appreciation of it.
Okay, it better come, because I was like, I don't want to live in a world without a Ghost of Mars review from Johnny Numb. That's just a world I don't want to live in.
I do not understand the hate for that movie. Maybe if you stack it up against Carpenter's classics, okay, maybe, it's not The Thing, that's for sure, but I think it's a fun little movie in its own right. More like put yourself in the mindset of like a Roger Corman or a Charles Band film, and I think your perspective will change a little bit. At least that's probably what my thesis will be for the review. So
in college, a guy knew me. He's like, "Do you like Ghost of Mars, Mark?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's fun." He's like, "I hate I'll never listen to any of your recommendations ever." And so whenever people talked about movies, like, Mark likes Ghost of Mars, don't listen to him. And listen, when I watch it, the villain the whole time is like, glabba, glabba, gloopla, Borussia Dortmund, like just saying the weirdest stuff. Yeah. Don't even know what's going on. It has Jason Statham, Natasha Henstridge, Ice Cube, Pam Grier, wonderful cast, Clea Duvall. Yeah. I mean, really eclectic cast. Very eclectic. There's a train fight. I love train fights.
Oh, it's cool, yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, people just, it's, and then people, it's not The Thing. Well, I mean, the term, like, Catch Me If You Can isn't Jaws.
Right, but it's a fun movie.
Yeah, like, Cars isn't Wall-E, but it's still a fun children's movie.
Mark, this is why I like you. You get it. We get each other here, right. I think. Yeah, that's good.
I was like, I gotta send Johnny Numb this movie because this world needs it. And if you haven't read Johnny Numb's reviews, he writes reviews. Well, you wrote a really great Roy Scheider piece for the Screening Space, and then you write reviews for Crash Palace. So check out Johnny Numb on Twitter. Check out his writing. I'll include a little link not a little link. That's very reductive. I'll include Johnny Numb's Twitter name in this when I release this, so you can go check out all of his stuff. And he has a good Twitter account too. There's some good like introspective stuff. There's some self-loathing. There's some interesting pithy comments. You know, it goes over a lot of heads. So you got to read Johnny, and then listen to all of our episodes. The House that Jack Built. I'm really promoting MFF. House that Jack Built. Green Room.
Yeah, I was gonna say we should just do this for the whole episode. And this will be the teaser. This will be the teaser for our actual Super Dark Times episode coming in the future.
Mark, tell me how great I am. Just keep going.
I'm just sitting back with my hands behind my head, thinking, yeah, I am all these things and much more. Yeah.
You're walking around like Thomas Jane strutting in Deep Blue Sea. You're just strutting through the Aquatica.
I was thinking of Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man 3, kind of when he does the dance, you know.
Yeah. I can see you doing that with the hat. You'd have to have the hat.
Yeah.
And
I resemble Tobey Maguire more than I do Thomas Jane, for what it's worth. So,
are you a turtleneck guy?
You know, I never really developed a taste for the turtleneck.
Got it. Did it feel like a really weak person was choking you? That's a Mitch Hedberg joke.
Oh my God! I just listened to that album the other day in the car. Yeah.
Escalators can never break down. They just become stairs.
Only become stairs.
You have a lot of cranial accessories. I tried to make 7-Up, mix some lemon and lime, but there's more to it than that. I was saved by the buoyancy of citrus. That's my hero right there. Oh man,
Mitch Hedberg is the man.
I want to see a vending machine spit out vending machines. It would be so literal. Sun chips. Sorry. Super Dark Time.
Do you want a banana? Do you want a green banana? No. But I want a regular banana later. Yeah. So yes.
I saw a wino. He was eating grapes. I said, hey, man, just wait.
Oh, man.
Mitch Hedberg is my spirit animal.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I got all his albums. It's sad he's not with us anymore. But
he had a tumultuous life, but it led to some good comedy. But that's still sad. But someone said that what they said was he was like a comedian, where comedians would just sit in the back of the room and just watch him and laugh incredibly hard, while most people would just sit there and be like, "What is happening?"
I can totally see that.
Oh, he just crushed it.
Yeah, his wavelength was so unique, I think, and it's like perfect because it's just that random kind of absurd stuff, and it's like it sometimes takes you a second to get it because it's like it's so out there.
And speaking of wavelengths, when I asked you, hey, Johnny Numb, which movies would you like to do next? Because we had actually talked about all the movies I think that we wanted to cover. And you brought this up, Super Dark Times, directed by Kevin Phillips, written by Ben Collins and Luke Piotrowski, who are covering the latest Hellraiser movie, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
Featuring wonderful performances, this film, from Owen Campbell, Charlie Tahan, and Elizabeth Cappuccino. Actually, Amy Hargraves is really good, too. And Max Talisman, and Sawyer Barth. I liked all 6 of them. They're all great. What, this movie hit your wavelength, correct? And why did it hit your wavelength? And why did you recommend it? Why did you want to talk about this?
You know, Mark, it's interesting because I think when I first heard about this movie, I think I'd heard people talking about, there was a little buzz about it, and we were in the midst of kind of the Stranger Things-assance, where it was like all 80s kind of all the time, and everything was an 80s throwback. You know, you had the movie Summer of 84, which came out around the same time. You know, I'm like, okay, it's all fine and good that everybody loves the 80s, and most of this is people who weren't alive in the 80s sort of experiencing the 80s vicariously, the music and the fashions and all that stuff. And I was like, well, you know, we haven't really had I feel like the 90s remains kind of an untapped era, and that's when I was a teenager, and I definitely resonate more with the 1990s than I do with really anything from the 80s. Granted, I love synthwave music. I love that whole trend that's come out of, you know, all this nostalgia. But I was like, yeah, it's not really my childhood. It's not really my teenage years. And I watched this kind of like thinking, okay, this is going to be like some Stranger Things, another kind of teen throwback to the 80s. And when I started watching, I was like, oh no, hell no, this is the frickin' 90s. I recognize it by the way things look, and I recognize it by especially the soundtrack they use in this movie, which is fantastic.
I love that. I've been downhearted, babe.
Yes, from the Radio Gods. Yeah.
Ever since the day we met.
Day I met.
Yeah, I love it.
Since the day I met.
We should just sing that for an hour.
Oh my God, people would stop listening in droves. Yeah.
How to Kill a Podcast.
Yeah, start singing Primitive Radio Gods. They're one good song. You know, there's Black Flag and there's like Juno Reactor at one point. I'm like, oh my God, this is like the stuff I started listening to in my late teens, and I just associated with utter coolness, basically. You know, these things that like you listen to them and they throw you back, you know, in time to when you first heard them. So that's just like one example. And I was like, this movie comes closer to being like, granted, the story, what happens in the story is not reflective of my teenage years, but
yeah, right.
I never got crazy with a samurai sword, but you know,
I used to throw throwing knives.
Oh, seriously?
I had a huge knife collection growing up. I got them at flea markets, and my mom would take me. I grew up in Florida. I also rode alligators to school.
I want the Mark Rides an Alligator to School picture book.
Every yearbook, every year, the alligator would sit with me in my picture. My yearbook quote was like most likely to be riding a alligator to my 9-to-5 job in 10 years. That was my superlative that I had.
I could just imagine you like riding an alligator down like the expressway to your job now, Mark. You know,
just on oh yeah, on Alligator Alley. That like it's a highway, and on both sides there's a lot of water. I could just be on the side on a really fast alligator.
And when traffic's all backed up, you can be like waving at the cars like as you're making time, and they're all stuck there.
Is that a man on an alligator?
There goes the neighborhood.
Not him again.
There goes that guy riding that alligator.
It made pizza delivery hard.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, people probably gave you the money, though, when you came up to the door with an alligator.
Yeah, I sent the alligator up. I got great tips.
Yeah, it's like... you just like... You put like a sign on the alligator saying, pay me, and the people just like throw money at it and just slam the door really quick.
And then if I'm like, there's no tip here, I just stand and wait, and then like $5 gets thrown out.
It's like Night of the Living Dead. The alligator gets up on its hind legs and starts smacking the door.
Yes.
Till he knocks it over.
Yes. And I gotta say, Johnny Numb, this movie, I was the way these kids rode their bikes, and so
yeah.
Well, growing up when I lived in Florida, I was one of those kind of feral children of the '90s, and so you know, like the parents split up, you kind of do your own thing, you know, like you just ride around, and then eventually I moved further away into the country. But there was another kid, Ian and I, and we would just go, we would go into the woods. I would get a 6-pack of beer. We'd go into the woods and drink it. Like we would try to we would like go visit a neighbor, and she's like, hey guys, you want some of this stuff here? Like, yeah, we'll go smoke cigarettes in the woods. You just gotta, for some reason, kids just like to, I guess in the 90s, right? 2000. Oh, yes, this was the 90s because I graduated in 2001. You just like to go into the woods. Ride your bike out there. I mean, if you live around there. And so watching these kids sort of just mill around, go to the gas station. I used to ride my bike to the gas station and get food, and it all definitely rang true to me, this film and all the journeys they had.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Mark. And something interesting to your point about like this taking place in the 90s, there's like none of that overprotective parent stuff that we see a lot of today. It's like, you know, parents are afraid to let their kids walk 2 houses down to play with some other kids. You know, back then it was just like, it's like, okay, just go out, ride your bike and hang out with your friends, just be home by dark. You know, it was just like it was a different kind of time back then, I think.
Yeah, don't come home until dark.
yeah. There was like more of this, freedom to do whatever, I guess, as long as you didn't get picked up by the cops or whatever. So.
No, I definitely lived that, and I think the performances too. One thing I really liked about Zach and Josh in this movie is they're not the super popular kids, but they're not the super nerd. Like they're not the bad kids either. So when spoilers, when Josh goes bad, Josh is not the kid who has a bad home life. Who I know he's a middle kid. His brother's in the Marines. His younger brother's a prodigy, but he's not. You don't see any signs of abuse. You don't see any signs of the kid being a bad kid. Yeah. I mean, what you do, I mean, you know, there's some like 90s teenager misogyny going on there as they're trying to watch the scrambled stuff and the way they're talking about women. Definitely not like